understand. And so as you look at these pictures here, you're going to see lots of different programs that are happening. And pay attention to the place where all these programs are happening. There's a Gus Macker tournament, you've got a petting zoo, car show, you've got street murals, you've got a temporary park, you've got electricity generation, you've got lots of things happening in each of these pictures, and they're all happening within a parking lot or the street environment. And so what you've done is you said, one of our assets, which is a street or a parking lot, which has one kind of program, we've decided, these communities have decided that that's not the sole program in that space. This space is too valuable for just one kind of programming. And so when the typical program within that space is low, or it's not as important on a given day or a given time, we can give this over to other kinds of programs, which basically put the success of those programs are based on the people who are trying to implement them, which is just residents of a community. Okay. So before we go any further, let's just kind of look at like how Brainerd relates to its region and how we can think about the sense of entrepreneurship and what are the opportunities here. Brainerd's in the middle of this region, relatively large region, and you'll notice on the map here there's areas of yellow, and then there's Brainerd and these areas of green. Well, the areas of yellow are other areas within its region that have enterprise and employment that competes with Brainerd's enterprise and employment. And you also have your Paul Bunyan Trail, you have established bicycle touring routes on roads, of course all the lakes, and all the forest that goes along with that. There's a lot of different things here, there's a lot of different programs that draw people to this region, and Brainerd's in the very middle of the region. But Brainerd's success over the long term has led to the success of these other places, and they're now competing for a lot of the same things that Brainerd historically offered. Okay, if Brainerd, one of my theses is, one of my thoughts about this is that Brainerd can't compete with these regions and everything, but it can compete in some things. And because Brainerd is the bottom anchor of the Paul Bunyan Trail, and Bemidji is the other, there's already a well-established bicycle and snowmobile trail network, and people come up here for these natural resources. Taking advantage of those kinds of activities with programming within the city that is a draw and that is in alignment is a strategy that's worth considering. Now this is a fairly complex chart worth looking at. It's important, but it's not going to feed too much further into this discussion tonight. But I did what's called a location quotient analysis of the jobs in Brainerd and its region. We'll just zoom into the bottom here. You'll see that if the region has a bigger circle and it's red, that means that the region has a larger share of the kinds of employment within this industrial classification category. If the circles tend to be green and it's bigger, that means Brainerd has the share. And it's analyzed two different ways, by number of enterprises or number of businesses and the number of employees that are found within that kind of classification. So when you look up here and you see here, this one category, mining, quarrying, oil and gas extraction, which is the general North American industrial classification category. Brainerd has the majority of the enterprises, but the enterprises that exist outside of Brainerd have the majority of the employees. All right, so what this does is this begins to show you where Brainerd's strong and where it's not so strong relative to its region within employment. I bring this to you because this was pertinent earlier in my process and still has application because we're talking about how do we foster entrepreneurship. And it's important to know what areas the community is strong in, which is its assets in terms of employment generation, and which areas maybe are not. And how do you then allocate scarce resources to supporting employment within this city. A larger kind of effect of this kind of Brainerd versus its region and the success of its region over time is that the city of Brainerd is no longer strongly identified with its region by visitors. When people talk about Brainerd, they talk about going to the cabin, or to the lakes, or to the trails or the forests, or to any other outdoor tourist recreational things that are out there, but they don't necessarily think about coming to downtown Brainerd or the city central. And so because of that, there's a cost that's being imparted on the city. People are coming here, but they're not really coming here. Okay, and so a lot of the proposals, a lot of the designs you'll see are geared towards how do you begin to change that so that this south end of the Paul Bunyan Trail and this county seat becomes a draw again in ways that are relevant to people who spend money and pay taxes. But Brainerd City does have a lot of assets on offer. There are a lot of things here that are draws within the city that matter to the residents and that can matter to visitors. If we zoom in here, within the city, you'll see that we have lots of restaurants indicated by the forks. There's some coffee shops, fair amount of parks scattered around, fair number of communities of faith. You have some studios, both like artistic studios and workout facilities. You've got some bicycle shops. These are all venues that exist within the city that are third places. They're places that people go to in their recreational time. They're places that they'll go to hang out with other people. It's these kinds of things that are important for anchoring the south end of the Paul Bunyan Trail and for getting people to collaborate. People tend to, when they get together, they brainstorm, they talk about things, ideas come about. It's in environments like this where these things tend to happen. And my focus is going to be specifically in this downtown environment, just because this is where the major highways cross. This is the historic part of the city. And ideally, this is where we want at least one of the lengths of the Paul Bunyan Trail to end at. We want to bring people down here. We want to show them what the city's done in terms of making this a better place. We've seen the streetscape improvements. There's a lot to highlight in this town, especially if you go further north. You've got this historic park. Let's give people a reason to come downtown. And so downtown, what do we have? We have diversity of zoning designations. I know that as of last November, the zoning code was updated. A lot of work was done with that. And there's a diversity of zoning types right within this area. Of course, you have the BNSF Railroad and then the major thoroughfares, which still get lots and lots of traffic. And then this is the more interesting graph, I believe. This shows you parcel values, property values on a per square foot basis. And this includes both the value of the land and the value of the building. And so if you're looking forward to possible places to intervene, possible places to promote entrepreneurship or investment, you can see that there are some places that are very low value relative to neighboring parcels. And these are located, these parcels are the parking lot behind the new jail facility. This is strip shopping just off Washington between 4th and 6th. This is the city lot, parking lot that belongs to City Hall, and then this is the lot that belongs to the credit union. So what we see here is we see potential opportunities for initial investment steps if that was to happen. It would make more sense to go to these kinds of parcels rather than to tackle these kinds of parcels. So, what's here right now? Well, within downtown Brainerd, we have lots of asphalt, concrete, some grass, and some streetscape improvements. And what does it look like? Well, you can see here, we're going to zoom into each of these photos in a minute. This is a map as it exists right now. So you see some of these organizations, the Eagles Club, some of the restaurants, where the various bicycle stores are, the coffee shop right across the way. And what you can see here is everything that's in the brighter colors is the area that I've focused on within this project. And you're going to see lots of streets and parking lot and some buildings. There's some other buildings in here as well, and I'm not trying to favor one thing or the other, but this was to help focus on where my area of intervention was, okay? And we'll zoom in here. So East River Road. So you're going to see each of these icons on each of the maps to help orient you. East River Road looks like this. This is the connection between the neighborhoods to the north and the parkland to the south, and it's like this for 2 blocks.